The conventional definition of what anthropologists do is that we study how other people live, how they make sense of their lives, what life means to people, how they relate to each other, how they organize their society, how they organize economics, politics. So my interest in anthropology focuses largely on the politics side of things. And that doesn't mean elections and things that political scientists study. It means how do people sort out power relations in their daily lives? How do different kinds of people interact? How do racial differences affect power relations? And because I work in Latin America, one of the biggest or most significant kinds of difference we see in Latin America is racial or ethnic, and has to do with relations between Native Americans, Native South Americans, we use the term indigenous people, and other people of Latin American societies and countries. So I started studying Spanish. That's a no-brainer. Why study Spanish? If you're going to study Latin America, you better study Spanish, and you should also study Portuguese. French will get you a little ways too in the Caribbean. And so I started studying Spanish in college because I was interested in Latin America, but because you can't be an anthropologist, you can't understand other people if you can't talk to them. So learning language for anthropologists is fundamental. Study abroad is often your first experience, and it can be challenging. It will be wonderful, but it will also be challenging. It can be linguistically challenging, socially, culturally challenging, physically challenging. Students often come back and say, I've just discovered something. I've just discovered, and you realize that you were barely on the cusp of discovering it, and you want to go back. A student who was in a course of mine is now in India sending emails, these incredible emails about these places and people that she's encountering, and studying a language that not a lot of people traditionally study in the American university. And having incredible experiences because of that. I have another student who's on a Fulbright in Germany right now. Her first experience was study abroad, but she is certainly doing well because she speaks fluent German, so she's going to be studying in a German graduate program. All of these incredible doors open to students who are able to communicate with other people and able to express their legitimate interest in other people, their passion for a place, and people tend to open doors to you when you're like that. Achachi. It's an Aymara word. Achachi means grandfather. And it wears this costume which is almost like a football player's outfit, this huge, it looks like a wedding cake, a giant wedding cake, and heavy. And that heaviness of the costume represents aspirations of wealth. But you have a soup called caldo de cardan. And caldo de cardan is actually soup made from the penis of a bull. And so drinking this soup at 5 o'clock in the morning is supposed to give you strength to carry out this dance, which in fact is rather grueling. And I'll never forget the guy that when we came down off of you come down off the side of the high parts of La Paz where the most indigenous people lived, and you sort of invade the inner avenue of the city where all the white people live. And it's kind of a symbolic taking of the city by these Aymara merchants. This incredibly effusive music. Thousands of Aymara merchants dancing down the avenue, taking the center of La Paz. I get chills remembering this thing. And dancing in formation, these incredible dresses. The women wear these incredible dresses, and they're shaking these noisemakers that are supposed to represent the chains of the slaves, but they're not slaves anymore. So it's go, and this heavy dance, you're sort of dancing like this. And it's exhausting. And at the end, this guy who was dancing with me came up beside me and said, "Eso te hecho vivir, gringuito," which means, in Spanish, little gringo or little American, that made you live.